Get to the business of sport. Rich, how you doing?
Awesome, man. Had a great week so far. Looking forward to off to Russia next week. So we'll do two Wednesdays now. We'll do from St. Petersburg.
Really?
If they don't shoot me down, which every general manager in the league is probably pining for, potentially.
How many clients do you have in the KHL right now?
8.
8.
Most of the highest paid ones, I'm proud to say. But I promised, we had a really Rocco Grimaldi, who's American, good, solid, really skilled player. I had a long talk with Rocco about the importance because, he's making 300-400 in the American Hockey League. He's going to make a couple million there, and I said to him at one point, I realize your wife's pregnant with twins, but there's going to be a point in time when those twins get accepted to Harvard and you're going to want to pay for it. And so after a lot of talking and reflecting, they decided to go, and Abby's an incredible trooper. She went 8 months pregnant to Russia and had her babies in St. Petersburg.
Really?
And what she told me shouldn't shock anybody that's lived in Alberta. She said both her and Byron Fraser's wife had their third child in Russia last year. And both of them said best facilities, best experience, best quality physicians they've ever had in a birth of theirs. And so Rocco now has a couple of Russians in the family. So I promised that if they went, I would come and see them, and the season's over in a week. So that became the last option became next week. So to make on my commitment. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm a little nervous, obviously, about the bombs flying around all over the place in that area with the Iranians hitting Cyprus, I guess, yesterday. But I think they're friendly with the Turks, and you have to fly through Turkey to get to Russia. You got to go to Istanbul. So I'm hoping we'll be okay.
Now, a few things to get to. We were going to have Sam Carrick. Sam, of course, had agreed to come on the show today because we're going to talk about getting traded at the deadline and everything. And then at the last minute, the Rangers exit. They basically have this policy now about they I don't get it.
Don't get it either.
Not doing media, especially over something. We weren't even going to talk to him about the Rangers. Like, what's there to talk about? Hey, your team's terrible. You're in 30th place. Like, it would be a one question conversation.
I felt like telling them, we're in Edmonton. We're not that interested in what the Rangers are not doing this year. But we're going to talk about, his him and his brothers, their business in these maple syrup business, which is really interesting. I was going to bring in some pancakes. We're going to have a little bit of fun. It's actually, my grandchildren tell me it's the best maple syrup they've ever had. So I don't know how you tell the difference, but apparently a wine aficionado can figure the difference between bottles of wine. And my kids have got a hankering for figuring out what the best maple syrup is. It would have been fun. So, but they decided last minute that he wasn't allowed to come.
which is very odd. Now, you've been doing this for many, many years. And so have I. There's only one organization that's ever done that.
I've never seen it anywhere.
And to me, like when I look at dysfunctional organizations, this is a small part of it, but all the little pieces add up. When you have to fill out a puzzle, it isn't just one piece. Wouldn't be called a puzzle, right? So you need a lot of different ones. And to worry about stuff like that illustrates to me that you've got your focus in the wrong direction.
Oh yeah, it just seems like you don't trust your players. I would feel like I just feel uncomfortable. And, I know Sam is a great team guy, so he just was quite willing to accede to their request. I'm sure he'll come on at another time. But it's not understandable. I don't like. I haven't had it explained to me why a player wouldn't be allowed to go on Spitting Chicklets or our show or whatever it is. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm actually surprised the Players Association hasn't stepped in, because it seems like, I'm going to Russia. I didn't expect to be exposed to being gagged here before I got out of the country.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So that's unfortunate. We were going to have Sam Carrick on, but he was going to join us for a segment or two later on in the program today. But it is, now you get down to the final 48 hours, I should say, for trade deadline. And as an agent, actually, you're joking about a funny story, because you And in hindsight, you're like, yeah, maybe it wasn't the rightest. You called one of your guys just out of the blue because you had to ask him a question. And he answers the phone like, dude, you can't just be calling me on the week of trade deadline without sending me a text. This is not about a trade. Pick up the phone.
Well, I'm not like,
because it shows, I think, for people that's how on edge some of the players are.
Oh yeah. Like it's Adam Ernie. And Adam won't mind me telling the story. I mean, Adam's gone through a tough time. I mean, 4 years ago, he's the leading scorer in the Detroit Red Wings, making $2.5 million plus. Then injuries have sort of taken their toll. He's back in Detroit. He's playing, in Dallas. He's playing a role. He's very happy there. He's got 3 young children. I guess we have a new rule now. You text me if it's trade deadline week. You text me before you call to say it's about this, because he said, I came out of the shower the text. I mean, he said to me, like, is it urgent? I said, no, not really. And then I guess Adam and I have a new rule, but that is how on edge they are, because look, I mean, you go back to here. I mean, it was in some ways a really great story, because when Adam was here, that's when they had Campbell signed. Campbell's gone to the minors. Calvin Pickard was up playing well, which will happen again soon, as we know. And then Kenny came to me, Kenny Holland, and said, look, numbers are tight, cap's tight. I'm not going to I think we have to give Campbell a shot here. We paid him a lot of money and give him a chance. I just want you to have a heads up that if we bring him up, I got to send Adam down. But he said, but I'm not doing it before Christmas.
Right.
So he said, we got the trade freeze. We got the break. So over the next 10 days, I just want you to pick up the phone, tell Adam he'll be here at home with his family, and but that's important. So he's gone through all of that. So you can imagine he's sitting in his stall. I just wasn't thinking, you're busy doing a bunch of stuff. I got this thing on my desk I got to call Adam about. I called him, and, he was suicidal for a brief moment in time, so.
Yeah, because, he's in Dallas, and obviously
loves it there.
Well, they've won 10 in a row. You don't want to leave. Like, it's funny. There's certain guys, if you're on a bad team, and your name's out there, you're kind of excited. Hey, you know what? Now, but not everybody, because it depends. Are your kids in school? Are they happy? There's lots of other factors involved. But those families do know that their job's a little bit different than the average person that you can get traded. Like, let's be honest, sports people, lawyers, teachers, mechanics. You don't get if you're working at in Bob's garage. You don't get traded to Sal's garage without your choice, right? Like now you can choose to leave, right? Like lots of people. I work in the oil field, and I saw a few guys who would literally leave and go work for the competition. It was their choice, right? You could do it. It's your choice. No problem. You could just up and leave. It's like you're a free agent all the time. If you want to, that's a great thing.
Believe me, if lawyers were, if someone tried to restrict the lawyers, they'd figure out how to deal with that pretty quickly.
Yeah. Crazy. But my point is, like, if let's say you're working at Lubbock LLP, and then all of a sudden Stillman LLP decides, guess what? We're going to trade. You're going to trade and go there. What?
Or you draft the lawyers out of the best law school in Canada. Go, buddy, you were the best in the class, man. I know, but you're going to love Swift Current.
Yeah,
it's going to be not bad. Yeah, but the guy last in the class is going to the best Toronto law firm. Well, I know that's all that was left when they picked.
Yeah. So now I do want to ask you this, because I've noticed something today. And so, and obviously the insiders, they work with teams, they work with the agents kind of on both sides, depending on the day. Yeah. And so they leak out the Colton Parayko. Here's the premise of the trade. He's going to Buffalo, but he has to waive it.
Yeah.
So now it's out there, right? Fans of both teams see it.
Yeah.
Right. Your teammates see it. Everybody sees it. And it's like, well, the players wait on it. Like, I probably wouldn't want that leaked out.
Well, who leaked it out? I mean, did one of the teams leak it out?
Because if the team really wants a trade to happen,
right?
I could see them being the ones to do it, and vice versa.
It could be either team, because maybe the player. We don't know. I mean, Colton was represented by the firm that I started and sold to Jerry, but maybe St. Louis leaked it because he's waffling on the saying yay to the trade request because he's got kids in school. Don't know his situation today. Or it was, I don't get it. Like, these guys are now, no one's in the news business anymore. Like qualitatively, it's all seemed to be like, if they get the trade details 15 seconds before the other guy, That's somehow incredible. Like, I don't get it. I'd like to know more. I just think reporting in sports has just become, for the most part, pretty useless, certainly in the short term. But I don't understand it. Like, I can tell you that if you watch July 1st and 3 or 4 of our clients sign, you will never hear about it before the team announces it. With exceptions, because quite often the people at the NHL offices, kind of loose lips there. So I'm sure, Drager and some of them, the rest of them have access to their cell numbers and stay in touch that way. I just don't get, like, why are we finding out 30 seconds earlier? Like, who cares?
Yeah. Hey, guys, teachers and mechanics don't make millions. Okay, but Daryl, here's the thing. I know people say that, but let's say you make $1 million and let's say you make 50 grand. And if all of a sudden you have to move by no choice of your own or quit your job, and you got to live in another city, and your kids are like, Dad, can you give me a hug at night? Well, no, I'm in another city. How much money, or what are you going to do? Are you going to send a virtual hug? Like, we have to be realistic here. Money doesn't solve everything. It's nice, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't solve everything. It doesn't take away, it doesn't make you less human because you have more money. It doesn't make you less human if you have less money either. My point is, it's difficult, and if it's a sudden change. So all I'm saying is, I don't love the fact from a player standpoint that there's leaks out that now it's up to the player to accept the trade. And to me, it's like, hey, we're making the deal. Somebody leaked it out to somebody. Mm-hmm. And I wonder what's the motivation.
Well, it's a real hollow argument this guy makes because, a teacher, makes 80, 100 grand a year for 50 years. And we might have a hockey player that makes $1 million for 2 or 3 years. Like, this job isn't that lucrative. Like, get a grip on this, because you look at the McDavid salaries, you look at other salaries at the top end. Sure. True. Absolutely true. But the guys at the bottom end, up and down, making a little bit of money, they might play for 5 or 6 years and come out with about 10% of a total teacher's salary over the course of their career. It's a ridiculous argument. It's because the argument really only applies to a small group of the guys. It's not that lucrative. There's an awful lot of guys in the minor leagues, same number as in the NHL, making somewhere around 100 grand, making a teacher's salary. And they do that for 5 years, and then they have no education and no opportunity. So suck it up and recognize these guys. It's not as easy as it looks. And it's not as easy to be a teacher as it looks.
Dude, I couldn't be a teacher. Like, I'll say this. Lots of people would love to be a professional athlete. There's not a lot of people lining up. Oh God, I wish I could be a teacher. Right? Like,
I'd be one of them,
it's a really hard job.
I'd be actually one of them. I really love kids, and I don't know how easy it is to motivate them. I think teaching is I think coaching, the more it's looked at, like, it's really interesting because when you think of teachers, Coach Wooden, who I was blessed to spend some time with when I was at UCLA, an amazing guy. A lot of listeners don't know, but the best coach according to ESPN and Sports Illustrated of the last century, 10 championships, last 12 years, 7 in a row, 3 undefeated seasons. He always thought of himself as a teacher. And he presented a great line to a coach who he went to see play. This team was practicing. I don't know what it was exactly. I'm not a big basketball fan, but he said, "Hey, Jason, I thought you were playing the 2-2-1 or whatever the play was." And he said, "Oh yeah, I've been teaching that all year." Coach Wooden looked at him and said, "They're not doing it though. You understand, as an effective coach, you have not taught until they have learned." It's an interesting shift because whoever it is, there's a lot of stuff going on in the National Hockey League, teams underperforming. Then fans are all over a player, a goalie, defense. Like, who's running the ship?
Yeah.
Submarine goes down. They don't usually grab the crew member that was in the back by the nuclear power plant. The captain's impossible. And and that's what great coaches do. And you don't see it in the NHL anymore. Oh, they don't get it. Listen to what's coming out of Toronto the last couple of months. I mean, it's like, buddy, you're coaching the team. Hello.
Yeah, no.
And you're getting $4 or $5 million to do it.
It's very true.
Okay, so it's so I guess it's Nice's fault or one of the other defensemen's. Yeah, wouldn't be your fault because you don't have to take responsibility then.
Quick break. We'll return. More on the business of sports. Hey, we talk about the business of sport. You don't have to like it all the time. We just kind of give you the human different sides of it. and that's okay. And no one's asking for empathy. When you outline the subject, say, hey, for a player to agree to a trade, there's lots of different reasons.
Yeah.
Right? There's because they have the advantage of if I don't agree to the trade, well, I'm still getting paid. Right. So that's a very strong, lucky situation to be in. That you're like, well, if I say no, I'm still getting paid.
Well, I've learned though, Jason, over time, like I get upset or frustrated when someone doesn't call you back right away. And then I've just learned over time to be more patient because numbers of times, oh, I'm so sorry. My son is in the hospital, so sorry. I talked to Don Sweeney a while back. No, it was Tom Fitzgerald. And it was during the summer. And sorry, my son got hit with a baseball. And, like there's things going on in the background. We're not the only people that have tough lives out here in the real world. I mean, fathers are sick, children have problems. I mean, Buddy Robinson's example, he went to make a year of play in Russia to make some money for his family, but he had to spend the whole year away from his family because one of his children's challenged and needs medical attention on a regular basis. Like there's a lot of people out there. I remember Craig Muni going to they tried very hard for a number of years to have children. They adopted one and then had one, right? Like seems to happen a lot. But I remember like he was so excited to have his own child. He's up, feeding him in the night and all that stuff. And he's going to game 6, 7, 8 in the playoffs, No one understands.
Game 8. That was a crazy game.
That was a good. That was that was one he dreamt about apparently. But no, but he's going to work with lots of challenges. Or when Tam Talbot had twins, maybe he probably had a few bad games around there, but no one's talking about that. And I think we should more often because sometimes there's real world problems that giving a guy a justifiable excuse. How about this one? This is the worst ever. Dominik Hasek, he retired, he came back. They're paying a lot to goaltenders. They had Cujo in at 9. Dom was willing to accept 6. He gets a groin injury. It's just a nagging thing, right? And they think he's faking it. Like the reporters say, come on, he should be ready. He came back. He should be this. He should be that. Unbeknownst to them, Dom had agreed to give all his salary back. So Kenny Holland's phoning me going, like, Rich, I know he doesn't want anybody to know, but I just can't sit back and let him get the crap beat out of him like he is. So Ken finally told the reporters, you don't know what's going on in the background. And I wish fans would, try and think a little bit before they make off the cuff kind of comments. There's a lot more going on. What if the guy's dad's dying as we speak? Would that be a good excuse not to want to waive your no-claim costs? Think about it. It's not as easy as it looks all the time.
The business of sports here on Sports 1440. The Gregor Show, always brought to you by our title sponsor, PlayAlberta.ca, your one-stop shop, instance, live dealer, lottery, sports, casino. They got it all in one place at PlayAlberta.ca, and all the revenue stays right here in the province, PlayAlberta.ca. We got a lot of text questions today. Good. Hey, guys, I'm curious for Rich. Do GMs ever call agents to figure out why players are playing abnormally bad? Do agents ever call their own clients if their play is off?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I actually remember the most interesting one I had. I think it was Jim Playfair was the defensive coach in Phoenix when Michael Roosevelt was there.
Yes.
And he called me, just asked me, he said, do you think Rosie, does he even want to play anymore? I'm like Rosie's a pretty competitive guy. I asked him what was going on. He just seems like a lethargic and he's not that energized. But he's a pretty understated guy, right? He doesn't say a lot. So I phoned Rosie and what's going on? You know anything that's going on? I said, no, and he couldn't figure it out. So it was interesting. So we talked about it. Jim was a little off the mark because he only played about 300 more games and won 2 Stanley Cups. So I think he was engaged. But yeah, there's times that, guys can't figure a player out. I had a long talk yesterday with a young Czech player in the Western Hockey League that coach is just trying to untap him, loves his skill, loves his skating, but just thinks he's caring too much. So we had a long talk about, family background and things that might be triggering that kind of response. Stuff like we talked about with Janice Taylor a few weeks back about emotional fitness. Yeah, it's not unusual. But I had an interest. I talked to him a lot. In our organization, we do a lot of goal setting and we have a lot of behavioral science tools that we use. And I joked the other day with a guy, I had 6 guys in the minors this year when we started. 1 guy left. It's pretty, it's a good year for us, right? Because ultimately, think of the revenue stream. I can get my 3-4 points off of 200 or million, right? So it's good. But I said to this particular player, I said, he's been traded twice this year, which is kind of interesting. And but he's that close. He's big, he's strong, he skates pretty well. And I said, you know what? We did some goal setting with the team to get really clear, which we got to do again. Now they traded again, but get clear what they want. Because I said, I think the only impediment between you and the one-way deal you've been looking for is something I figured out. And the good news, it's manageable. And we have a lot of influences because you know what the problem is? It's you. It's the only thing that's stopping you from playing. And so he got really excited about that, started working on his goal setting. And so, I mean, we want them to succeed, right? So, coaches want them to succeed. GMs want, and it depends on who the GM is. But, we had Matthew Darch on the other day. Can you imagine Matthews, one of my clients, struggling with the Islanders? How likely it is you think weeks would go by without him calling? No. But he's a good man. He's had a lot of experience in the real world. He knows how to talk to people. And what happens in the National Hockey League, most of these guys don't. I mean, I've had situations like where the coach isn't even talking to the player because he doesn't know how to tell him, right? That he's sitting or doing this, or he's not, why he's not playing, because they're intimidated. They're not that, most of them aren't trained in psychology and communicating. And, so we often play a pretty big role. And I have no trouble calling a player and talking to him about because it's to his benefit and mine, right? He plays well, I do well.
Yeah. You want the player to have success, not just financially, but emotionally, for every other reason. But it's a good question. Sometimes because the GM's like, man, I don't know how to approach the player, so you probably call the GM. You might call. I would think a good GM would call the agent first to say, hey, there's something here that I should be aware of that maybe I don't know. Because the truth of the matter is, a player sometimes, if they've got something that he thinks, because lots of times we'll create how we think someone's going to react to the news, right? Like it's think about, husband, wives, parents, kids. Oh, geez, if I tell them this is how they're going to react.
I can't say it that way.
I can't say it that way, or I can't tell them this. And so the player, maybe something's ailing. Well, I don't want to tell them because maybe I'll be out of the lineup and then I'm not going to get back in the lineup. Or they're going to think that I'm weak because I've got this or that. So a good GM nowadays probably has to go to the agent and say, I just want to check in first before I go to the player. Is there something I should know?
Well, yeah, because, you don't know what's going on in their head. And it's so difficult because NHL teams don't really, for the most part, handle the things like the emotional intelligence and the mentality. I remember one time, like it's so tied together. Like there's a basic approach we take with athletes who are struggling. I phoned them up. I remember Thomas Faucone years ago. I believe he was 0-8 at the time, coming right out of the season. Played pretty well. Just, team wasn't scoring. So I said to him, Thomas, where are you? So I'm just lying in bed at the hotel. Why? So why don't you do me a favor? I said, so, okay, just trust me on this. I said, so I want you to get out of bed, stand up, put your feet shoulder width apart. Then I want you to look at the ceiling and smile, a big a smile as you can. I said, how do you feel now? Well, a little better. And the point of that was to try and explain the body and mind connection. And so what we get players to do when they first struggle is do the things away from the rink that you do when you're playing well. Because you say, oh, I got to go to bed early because, I haven't been playing well. Reminder, in slump, right? Well, I'm not going to have a glass of wine with dinner. I'm in a slump. Hey, maybe we should try my favorite meal because I got a hat trick that time. Oh, yeah, you're in a slump. So you should probably try that. So what I said so go out to a late movie. Have 3 glasses of wine because you do that. And at least that's the start for you to subtly change the way you're feeling. Because my feeling is that NHL players are like old locomotives.
Mm-hmm.
They can't go from 0 to 100 instantly. So if you walk around all day in a funk, how's it going, Jason? Oh, it's horrible, man. I don't know. It's just been, you do that all day. You can't shake that and play at the level that they're playing at. Right. So, yeah, we spend a lot of time with, players talking about those kinds of things because it's really important. Like, and their mentality, and the GM might not know. He doesn't know. GM's up in the office. He's around a little bit at practice, doesn't see him much, doesn't know. You ask the players, they know, but they don't seem to focus on it. They just don't seem to understand the value of the fuel that fires the engine, which is the emotions and the mental approach to the game. I look at players like Connor McDavid, and he's got to put so much pressure on himself that it's just got to be tough. How do you release that? Because like Janice was told me that Connor probably has an extra 20-30% in him. If he could just, I mean, it's understandable. Everybody in the world is saying if he doesn't win a cup, he's not in that group.
Yeah. Wow. And it's got lots of time for that.
But it's still hard. I mean, when you're an athlete, your long-term view is not like ours. He doesn't have lots of time. He doesn't think.
Yeah.
A long-term view for a hockey player is Tuesday.
Well, the elite player is a little bit different.
Yeah, I don't agree with you. I mean, I think elite players are a little bit different because
Yeah.
they don't have the ups and downs, so they can let it slide. Wayne Gretzky doesn't get any points one night. He's not figuring he's washed up when he's in his prime. But, but Connor is like, it looks to me like Connor's the guy trying to make the lineup. There's a lot more pressure when you're in the press box, and there's a lot more pressure, very unique pressure on a guy like Connor McDavid because it's about the cup. It's about winning the cup. And you carry that because it's not easy to win.
I don't disagree with that. And that's why I've always felt like I think it's important if I'm building the Oilers organization, I'm looking for lots of factors because you can't win the cup in the regular season. You can get into a playoff position.
Yeah.
That's all so you can give yourself, hey, we could be one of 16 teams in the hunt.
Yeah.
And now we know that out of those 16, there's probably 8 maybe who have a realistic shot to win. Now some though, every year not every year, but lots of years we have upsets. Hey, Florida went from the 8th seed, that the 17th most points in the regular season, went all the way to the cup final a few years ago. And some wonder if Kachuk and others weren't hurt, maybe they would have won. So you never know once you get in what can happen. But it is a lot of pressure, and you would need to find ways during the season to turn down the knob
a little bit
on the pressure. I got to have some funny guys in the room.
Yeah.
Right. I would have to have some agitators in the room where if anybody tries to, take a bite out of McDavid, he knows. Like, I love what Pod Colson did last night. Yeah, I get that, it's pretty clean hit on Matthias Ekholm. But guess what? If you don't do anything at certain times, other teams look and say, we can take advantage of it, right? So I love what Pod Colson did. And he didn't go after a super heavyweight, right? Like, I'm not doing that against Olivier or because then you might get hurt. But the odds of really getting hurt in that fight last night are pretty low.
Minimal.
And, and I think those little small things work out. But I would make sure when I know that I've got a superstar who he puts way more pressure on himself than anyone else.
Oh, yeah.
There's no question about that. Yeah. But he also puts in way more work than most other people. There's a reason why he's so great at his job.
Oh, absolutely.
He's so
his
committed.
Focus and commitment.
It's amazing.
Reproach.
Right? But I think you'd have to look and say, Connor does put a lot of focus and emphasis on himself and wanting to win. And so that's all he's wired for. And that's great. So what can we do to help him? And I think that's the G. And it's not just about, okay, can we get the best right winger and the best left winger and the best defenseman?
You might need a Corey Perry.
Right. Like, you need other elements. And I think you need some guys. Okay, who are some players that, like, I know it's and I'm a big, I'm not a huge believer in first impressions, but I've met Connor Murphy before. I've never had as long as a chat I had with Connor Murphy today. Right. But I could just tell from our first instance. So we meet, and so to people background on the Oilers room, when they open the room for media availability, they'll have numbers on the board, guys who are going to do scrums, and then it says side, and usually that's a one-on-one.
Okay.
Right. And so I was listed at side because I was the only one who asked for Murphy because I wasn't there last night. And then Rashad's like, hey, do you mind if I he said, get your 2 questions out, whatever. So it was like a running joke. I said, he's got 2 questions. And Connor Murphy's right away. He's like, what does side mean? And he starts making a few jokes about what side. So we sit down hey, what's your name? Like, I always introduce myself first anyway. Hey, nice to meet you. And I can tell you, not every player is that way. Just like not every human. Yeah. I meet kids. Some kids will look you square in the eye and shake your hands. Others won't. They don't. What do you mean? I don't have to say hello to you. Like, there's different ways. And I could just tell, here's Connor Murphy. And when he talked about the importance of giving back to the community and doing stuff in the community, and he said, because you know what? I didn't think about hockey. And that actually really helped me. Because when you're younger, all you do is think about hockey.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And Connor doesn't have kids yet, McDavid. Because when you do relax a little bit more.
You have no
Some
choice,
days you're more stressed too. Any parent out there's like, what are you talking about? Relax more. Some days you relax more. Right. And some days
you're distracted at least.
Right. Because think about it, for any parent, you have a tough day at work, whatever your job is a tough day. And when you have that newborn, you come home and, or maybe you're lucky enough that you get to stay at home, mom or stay at home dad. But those moments when, you just put the baby on your chest, it's a weird feeling. And if you're young and you don't have kids, I can't explain it until you experience it. I can tell you about it, but you don't really know.
Or when you play mini
until
sticks
you do it.
hockey, because
Right.
you have to focus.
Yes.
There's
And then you're there, right?
Well, it's a psychological phenomenon identified by a University of Chicago psychologist named Mahai Csikszentmihalyi. It's called flow. And if you can get a flow experiences when you're so wrapped up in it, rock climbing, chess, drawing, you're so wrapped up in it that you can't think of anything else. And that's what your children do now. They might be terrorists for a brief period of time, but you're not thinking about the game because you're trying to figure out how to get the kid off the roof and then identify how he got up there. And it's cathartic in a sense that you just get away from it a little bit. So it is healthy to have distractions for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's good for everybody in their walk of life. And and sometimes in a locker room, there's different personalities. Obviously, you need guys who can play.
Yeah.
But
ideally,
at the same time, you want guys, different personalities who can cut the tension. Sometimes you need the experience. I think the Oilers now, McDavid and Draisaitl have been in the Stanley Cup final twice. Like, they don't need to hear, they don't need Corey Perry to tell them about the stories because now they've lived the stories. Right. So that part's good. But now you might need a young guy who comes in, or a veteran, and they're wide-eyed and super excited. Like Connor Murphy.
Say, we want to win it for him.
Yes.
Because we've already run 3.
Yeah.
Right.
And Connor Murphy, I talked to him about it today, and he had a great answer for Oilers fans. You might want to check it out later on at jasongregor.com or anywhere you get your podcast, re-listen to it. But he's never played a playoff game with fans because the only year he made the playoffs was 2020.
Right.
And he even said, he goes, you know what? I never put that much stock in that playoffs. It was fun, but the fans really make the playoffs because it's so much more intense and the building's loud. Yeah. And, he even noticed, he goes, like, I've obviously been around the league for many years. He goes, there's more Oilers jerseys in this rink than I see in a lot of rinks around the league. And he goes,
true,
first thing, and his wife, and they have a young son who's a year and a half. And so they're, him and his wife were very excited when they got the call because they knew they were going to get traded.
Right.
So they got the call, wow, I'm coming to Edmonton. And they're just like, Canadian market, really good team.
Oh, yeah.
You get to play with superstars. Like,
right.
I don't care who you are as a player. To say, hey, I was a teammate of Connor McDavid for a while, and Leon Draisaitl and Evan Bouchard, and name the rest.
And maybe I'm one of the guys who gets to go over the hump with them.
Yes.
That'll be memorable.
Yeah.
Well, I've always a friend of mine said, and I didn't really follow that closely. He said Bill Guerin was the guy that really helped Sidney Crosby. And I don't know much about the details around that, but he must have been reading or heard some stories and stuff. But that may be an example. Like Connor McDavid may not need someone to tell him the stories about how he, getting to the Stanley Cup final, but maybe he needs a perspective that will help him relax. That guy that's just funny, he's fun to be around, and he takes you away from the game periodically on the road. Hey, buddy, let's go do this. Have you ever seen Bobby Holik was interesting that way. I mean, if I ever had a thing I wanted to do on the road when I was waiting for a game to start, call Bobby. He knows every museum. He knows where to go. And maybe you need a guy like Bobby Holik just to take some of these guys out and take them away from the game, because when you're in the middle of the playoffs, it's got to be overwhelming, especially when you're putting extra pressure on yourself to win. So, it may not be a winger. It may not be a defenseman. It just may be that guy that goes, you know what? Bobby was the key. This guy was the key because he just kept the room so relaxed.
Yeah, there's lots of different guys at different times to do that.
It's a lot of different components to having a successful team.
Yeah. Lots more text line in 833-401-1440, 833-401-1440. Rich, how do you negotiate when it comes to no movement clauses, no trade clauses? How hard or easy are those types to get into a deal?
Depends on the organization. It depends on the organization. Some are smart enough to just stick to their guns and say, look, we don't have those here. Right. And I think that's what I'd be doing if I was in that seat. So it varies on the team. It's harder for them to say, well, we don't want to do that because we already have 17 guys with those, and my guy's going to be 18 or he's going somewhere else because he wants some control. Now we know the no Pukov is absolutely meaningless, right? Because you have to, if you want, the no move is important. This is important distinction. The no move prevents you from moving him anywhere, including sending him down. Mangiapane didn't have a no move clause, so he gets to go down. So the no move clause is harder because at least you want to be able to get out of some of the relief, and maybe you want to have the pressure of sending you down if you don't accept this trade. But it depends on the team. There's no real answer. Certainly, guys, Julian Brisebois, tough, firm, builds policies, sticks to them, treats everybody the same. You just kind of go, if you want to play in Tampa, they don't have that thing. But if you go to Toronto, they give it away like candy, at Christmas. So it's different. Every team's different.